Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Jemma, and joining me this week, I have my two excellent friends. I don't have nicknames for you this week, so I'm just going to go with, I have the amazing Kirk. Let's just not do alliteration. I have the amazing Kirk.
Hey, I'm very happy to be back, and will try my best to be as amazing as possible.
Yes, thank you. Welcome back. We missed you last week. And welcome back again to the equally amazing Trev.
Wait, I have to share the nickname with Kirk? I'm
Yes.
like the
This
magician's assistant to Kirk.
She said equally, equally.
equally. That's the key word. Okay.
Although
And,
now I feel like I need to see you in the magician's assistant outfit.
I'm dancing on stage to distract him while you're doing sleight of hand, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate the help.
Yeah. Yeah. All the help we can get. No, thank you both. We've got a very big show packed full of news and games and some Switch 2 discussion, of course. So let's kick it off with a bit of a Switch 2 update slash discussion because the Switch 2 Direct that we've been counting down to is now only 16 days away from the publication of this episode. Which is now feeling super close. We talked a couple weeks ago about how, oh, was it last week? I think Trevor was saying it doesn't sound close because it's a different month, like April the 2nd, even though it's early April, we're still in March. It seems a whole month away, but it's edging, it's edging up very closely. How are you guys feeling? Are you now starting to get excited about it? Or are we still like, yeah, it's ages away? Who's got a comment on that?
I've been excited, but I'm also eyeing my finances now because, I'm
Yeah.
wondering what the price is going to be and what
Yeah.
time it's going to come out. And, like, do I have the money to. Obviously, we write about Nintendo, so, we can kind of justify the expense, but it's not like Nintendo is sending us Switch to,
Oh,
units.
you didn't
So
get, you didn't get one yet?
I'm on the wait list. um,
I know. I
for
wish.
for mid-year enrollment or whatever they call it, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited and also worried about not just the cost of the system, but even the games. I mean, are
Mm.
they going to be like Tears of the Kingdom $70 retail releases?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They have said, I think there's been rumors about the price being higher for Switch 2 games than they are for the Switch because we've talked about prices before. In general, like gaming prices haven't really gone up all that much since, the 90s. Like it's not like they've doubled or tripled in price, right? So we don't want to have to pay too much for games. Otherwise, that's going to curb our, collection to a degree. But there was some rumors floating around this week about the launch for the Switch 2 being big in terms of, the release window of games being available. So this week we'll talk about our hopes and dreams for the games and what we already know. But I mean, we know the Switch 2 launch lineup was pretty small, pretty light on, right? And we think maybe probably because they had to rush that Switch launch due to the Wii U's, it didn't perform as well as they hoped. What do you think about that rumor, I suppose, if you want to call it that? Because I don't know if it's true. Probably it could be, but we don't know whether Nintendo's the only one who knows. Do you think that's likely, given that we've had some time now where Nintendo's had time to really get the games ready in advance?
I think it's likely because I also think that developing for the Switch was a whole lot different from developing for the Wii U.
Mm,
So,
true.
but developing for the Switch 2 isn't, it's just going to be more robust, right? And maybe they could take
Hmm.
advantage of the Joy-Con mouse capabilities or whatever new feature they're going to roll into it. But otherwise, it's basically just a bigger, better, faster system. So I think they could have been developing a game for the Switch and then gotten the dev kit for the Switch 2 and said, "Oh, okay, well, let's just do this." Then pushed over. So I think there will be more. Not that I think
Hmm.
that's as important as some people make it sound. I mean, was
Yeah,
anybody disappointed when you went home with just Breath of the Wild with the Switch?
exactly. It's a good point. Yeah, I mean, who wants 100 B grade or D grade games compared to a handful of quality titles, right? Like, I think that's the priority.
It also helped that with Breath of the Wild was a game that took up 100, 200 hours depending on how much you wanted to put into it. So if you get games like that, you only need one or two to start, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to a dozen smaller games.
Yeah, we already have too many games to play, right?
I mean, the Wii U had a pretty decent game launch number wise, like with third party support too. And I look how that ended up compared to most Nintendo systems. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then look at like the N64. It launched with only two games, but one of them was Mario 64. So it didn't really matter. I mean, that's all you played for months, and people loved it. So it's not that I want to go back to the quality versus quantity thing because you hate the droughts, but they
Mm.
got to be realistic, with what they're going to have.
What was the other Nintendo 64 game that they launched?
Pilot Wings
Oh, yeah,
64,
of course.
which was a good game, but it wasn't Mario 64. That was something else.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so let's talk about the games that we would hope or think that are coming would might be in the launch window of the Switch 2. We obviously know Mario Kart 9 is a thing, whatever it might be called. I'm assuming it's Mario Kart 9. That obviously got shown during the teaser in January. Looking forward to more about that. Do you think, and maybe it's more of a number, but how many kind of first party titles do you think might be shown off in the direct?
I defer to the amazing Kirk.
Oh boy, you would have more knowledge of this than me. I don't know. What have we? Well, is Metroid considered a first party title?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, in my mind, whenever I hear first party titles, I think Mario and the Mario characters. So my apologies for that misconception.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we're gonna have Metroid. I assume they would have to.
True.
Um, I don't know. People have, I don't think we're going to get a new Zelda right away. We
Mhm.
could get a remake of something, but that wouldn't generate the excitement. I don't think that a new title would, unless of course it's Twilight Princess, which people have been clamoring for quite some time.
Mhm.
Um, but we talked about Kirby. Possibly it's time for a new Kirby game. Well, I don't know. I don't know what they would want to roll out straight off the bat.
It is hard to say, honestly. It is pure speculation. I think you're right about the Zelda thing because we've had Tears of the Kingdom relatively recently in terms of Zelda games. They obviously take a long time to develop, the 3D ones. Plus, we had Echoes of Wisdom not so long ago as well in terms of top down, and that was a brand new entry. So yeah, I think a remaster is in order because people just have been talking about it so much. Do you agree with that, Trev?
um, perhaps I do think they will have a few. Again, with the exception of the 64, I think Nintendo's always had at least a few first party and
Mhm.
or sometimes even what they call second party, where it's a different developer, but Nintendo is funding it and they're publishing it and they're promoting it. So, um, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how people classify, but
Mhm.
like look at the Switch with snipper clips. That
Mm.
wasn't Nintendo developed, but it was a launch title that they put their money behind because they believed in it and
Yeah.
polished it up. So I think they will have a few. It's really tricky to say with Mario Kart because I mean, are they going to have 96 tracks? Because that's what we have now. So
Yeah.
anything less is going to seem like a disappointment. Um, I don't know. I do think Kirk made an interesting point though, talking about like presumably the mouse features, which have sort of all but been confirmed, even though we don't know 100%. Are they going to have a title that takes advantage of that? Because traditionally, Nintendo always has a game to highlight their new tech, whether it's touchscreen or 3D or HD or motion control or Mode 7 graphics or whatever the case may be. So, um, there's some first party Japanese games that used the SNES mouse back in the day. Could they rework something like that, like Mario Picross, to take
Mm.
advantage of the mouse features? I don't know, but it would shock me if there wasn't something that highlighted that. Because if Nintendo's not doing it, our third party's going to do it. Are people going to be interested in a new feature if there's no game to highlight why it's important?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think there will definitely be something to speak to that new feature from Nintendo, some sort of first party offering or supportive offering, in a game sense. I think Mario will be present, Mario Kart, obviously, Metroid, and I think they will mention Zelda. I just don't know how. And it might be something like teasing the next big Zelda. that could be a year or two away. We don't know, but they're obviously working on something. I think they might tease us because Zelda is just such a big part of, Nintendo. Like Kirk was saying, when you say first party, you kind of think of Mario, Zelda as the big two, and then there's a bunch of others that fall under that umbrella also. But I think this direct has to really wow everybody, and I think they're gonna wanna bring out their big guns. So yes, that's what I think anyway, but obviously we will find out in 16 short days. Anything to say about third parties then? What do you think might be the case? Any obvious ones that you think will be immediately ported to Switch 2, for example?
I don't know that if I could think of anything that'll definitely come, because I just tend to be wrong on these things. I think before we talked about Baldur's Gate 3, I would really like to see Metaphor come from Atlas.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there are so many games that came out in the past 3 or 4 years for the PS4, PS5, Xbox that would be nice to have, but I don't know that Nintendo would really want to highlight those right away because it would make the Switch 2 look dated in a way, wouldn't it?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, unless they had new compelling features
Yeah.
that were unique to that. I mean, there's going to be some third party, but it's hard to say because, like, again, the Wii U initially seemed like it was going to have really good third party support, and then it dried up. Um, it wouldn't surprise me. There's certain like third party games that tend to sell better on Nintendo. We've seen it like with Sonic or Just Dance, or so some of the lower hanging fruit maybe could arrive over. Or I think too of just certain games that probably would have an audience with Nintendo players, but they were so graphically like intensive that the Switch couldn't handle it. So presuming the power boost, maybe those could make for easy ports for people who have been console exclusive, to Nintendo. But I do think they'd have to kind of keep them more to the not to the background, but obviously the first party efforts are key because that's why people tend to buy Nintendo systems. It's for Nintendo games.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
I also think that if I can't think of any examples right now, but if there are any PS4, Xbox games that have been announced that aren't out yet and haven't been announced for the Switch, now would be the time to say, "Oh, also coming to the Switch 2." So that these
Mm,
games that people are excited about on other systems, we'll see the Switch 2 is getting it now. That kind of bumps up the importance and the power of the system, and we'll get those gamers possibly more excited about looking over at the Switch 2.
mm. Yeah. Very good points. I totally agree. Yeah, I think we'll definitely see some third party love in the direct. It has to be part of it. And it's likely there will be some older games being brought over, something big and exciting, like Baldur's Gate, maybe, because wasn't that Game of the Year a couple of years ago, or up there, one of the best, and other things that people will get excited about, even if it is a few years old, just because we haven't been able to play such games before on our Nintendo device. Interesting.
Yeah,
It's
and
it's
I think
true.
a
Like,
lot of these. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking. Like, remember on the Wii U when Watch Dogs came out? Like, I never
Hmm.
played that, and by the time that came out, that was fairly old. But I seem to remember people being excited for that
Mm.
because it's like, oh, finally. And I don't think it actually sold all that well, but probably because it was such a delay. But I know there's definitely those who, if it's not on a Nintendo system, they're probably not going to play it. And I tend to kind of put myself in that realm nowadays because Nintendo is really my console. I mean, I have Steam, but I hardly ever do anything with it. So, um, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a market. I guess it depends how old the game is. Not every game ages as well as Nintendo games. I mean, we're chomping at the bit for Twilight Princess, a 20-year-old game. A
Yeah.
20-year-old PlayStation exclusive probably is not going to have the same effect, but it is nice to have a breadth to the library. You don't want to
Mm.
be like a 64 situation where you have the dream team of, just a handful of developers, and then you're left with a library of platformers and racers and no RPGs.
Mhm. Yeah. Very good point.
That sounds awful.
Those were the dark days, Kirk. That's why you didn't pick it up till GameCube, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mm. Imagine a world with no
Yeah,
RPGs.
one other thing I'm looking forward to, and I think will happen because keep in mind we're talking about games, but of course, at the April 2nd direct, Nintendo is going to have to put a good chunk of that time towards the hardware and the system itself. So we're not going to have as much time to talk about games. What I'm
Mm.
thinking is, as with most Nintendo directs, is after they come out, we start to get press releases from companies that are releasing things that weren't part of the direct. And I think a lot of the
Mm.
games that I'm looking forward to, just because of the type of the thing I enjoy, is going to come that way. So even outside of the direct, I'm excited to see what gets announced by some of the smaller developers, or the type of games that Nintendo is just not inclined to feature, during one of their own presentations.
Mm. Yeah, I think so. Very likely. That'll be exciting for us then, the weeks following the direct to see what we get in our inbox.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, can't wait to find out more. Anything else to add to that conversation before we move on to some news items?
It just makes me think, to Kirk's point about the smaller indies. I hope whatever the eShop is for the new hardware is kind of up and running day one. I don't think people want to wait for a slow turnout and then get flooded with no curation, with just 20 different game of the year editions of, Buffet Simulator 2000 or whatever it is. So I hope they have a eShop in place day one with some high quality indies of varying price structures. Because I'm hoping for a pack in, but if there's no pack in, and say Mario Kart's not your thing, which is bizarre, but let's just pretend,
Yeah.
and you want a game for your new hardware, maybe you go on the eShop and redeem a $10 card, $20 card, and pick up, a great indie game and have that
Mm.
carry you through till something better. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I hope so too. I think Nintendo, hopefully they've learnt their lesson with previous online offerings, and can give us something pretty robust from day one. Thank you, Trev. Let's move on to some news items. There's a few interesting things here. Some goods, I would say one at least for me is not good and a surprise actually, but we'll get to that.
I felt so
Um,
bad.
yeah,
Before we get to that, I just want to say I felt so bad.
I didn't even know about this, Kirk, until
Yeah.
should we start with that since we're talking about
Oh
it?
no, let's bait
Okay, let's
people.
save
Let's
it.
make them wait.
Okay, all right, wait for the bad news. Um, well, the first exciting thing is that Chrono Trigger is celebrating its 30th anniversary, or did celebrate it last week. It was the 30th, well, it was 30 years since the original game was released in Japan, which is super cool, I guess. But the exciting part to add on to that is that Square is celebrating.
I hate to interrupt you there, Gemma, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna,
Okay.
and I'll just say that this is exciting for me and also depressing to think that it's been 30 years for Chrono Trigger.
Hmm.
Time flies, but that's one of my favorite RPGs, and that's really one of the games that brought me back to Nintendo, along with Mario RPG for that matter. So, um, yeah, I just leave it at that because I'm in an RPG kind of mindset. I've been playing Suikoden, and Chrono Trigger is right up there, with it among my favorites.
And I have to say, I've never played it.
Oh,
Oh, it's
Kirk.
I see so many games where the people they compare it to it, or it's inspired by, or we love Chrono Trigger and we made this, and I played all those games, but I've never played the original.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll be excited for you when you finally do, because it. Yeah, I mean, I also don't want to overhype it because then it
Mm.
would just raise the bar so high. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just a really oh
it
yeah.
is great.
I'm excited for when you finally get a chance
well, I
to play it.
intend to. I fully intend to.
Hopefully, one of the various projects that Square is celebrating with might be some kind of HD remake or, enhanced version. Then you could sink your teeth into, Kirk.
Yep, that's what I was hoping when I saw it. Yep.
Mm, mm.
I
That's
mean,
a
It's
we
big
had
deal.
beautiful.
Chrono Cross. Like they brought the sequel. Why not the original? Or the
Yeah,
is it a sequel or is it a spin-off or like a I forget exactly. Um,
I don't
I don't play
know.
it nearly as much, but that's on Switch. I wouldn't recommend playing that before the Chrono Trigger though. But
Yeah. Well, I played it a lot, maybe potentially later than you did. I assume you played it on the Super Nintendo, Trev, back in the day.
I did first play it on the Super Nintendo before I owned one. I had borrowed
Huh.
one. It had a Chrono Trigger, a Link to the Past, and Super Metroid. I think were the
Wow.
three games, and they were
Pretty
all
good.
great games. But
Yeah.
I didn't actually own Chrono Trigger till the D. No, that's not true. I had it on the PS1, and then I bought it on the DS, uh, which is probably still the way I'd replay it.
Mm. I didn't play it until it came to the DS. I own it on the Super Nintendo, but it's the US cartridge because it never came to Australia or Europe, to PAL systems. So I couldn't play it natively. I didn't have an American Super Nintendo, but I have the American cartridge. So there you go.
Oh
The US
wow!
cartridge. Might be worth something. I don't know.
I was gonna say it'd be cheaper for you to get a US system than to have gotten that card. Although you probably got that card years ago.
I did a long time ago, but I couldn't play it. So it's just
Oh
sat there.
man,
And then I didn't get to play it till the DS, and loved it, of course, because I had read about it. I wanted to play it for years and years, and so I finally got around to it. But yes, very exciting. I do hope Kirk gets the chance to play it one day.
if he does, I want a whole episode just on Chrono Trigger impressions.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Next up, Niantic has sold its gaming division, which includes Pokemon Go and Pikmin Bloom, and I believe there's a Monster Hunter game in there as well. So I think this had been rumored for a while, or they've been talking about it for a while. It's happened. It was some crazy amount of money, billions of dollars. The entire gaming division now belongs to, and I didn't write down the name of the company. Sorry, if either of you know. It's another gaming giant. Apparently, I had not heard of them before. But yeah, it's interesting because what does this mean for those games? Will they change? Will they not? Anyone got an opinion on that?
I think I think it's inevitable that they will change a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it's rare that somebody ends up buying something like that and then keeps things exactly as they are. They all start to meddle.
Mm.
But how it happens, and how, like, what's the new relationship with Nintendo then too? Because I assume Nintendo's got to have oversight on everything. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that relationship is like, between Nintendo and Niantic. I suppose previously, how much say because they own half of the Pokemon company, right? Nintendo.
It's, I mean, what was it like 3.5 billion or some insane number? I mean,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you don't spend that type of money without having, I guess, some input on the
Yeah.
direction it's going to go. And it doesn't affect me much because, I mean, like these mobile games aren't really my bag. But um, yeah, it's just a staggering amount of money to, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, thinking of all the money they bring in just with Pokemon alone. Maybe it
Mm.
seems like a modest amount of number. I don't know. It's weird. Um, I mean, you would know. I mean, because it's not just like Pokemon Go. It's what's that other one you like?
Pikmin Bloom.
Yeah,
Yes.
the walk. Yeah, like Pikmin walking game. I couldn't think of the name. Like, and obviously Nintendo has more input with even Pikmin than they would Pokemon. So, um, yeah, what's it all leading to?
Exactly. I do like Pikmin Bloom, and I was hugely into Pokemon Go. I still have it. I just don't play it very often because I play Pikmin Bloom now. But yeah, I would assume Nintendo has a lot more to say with Pikmin Bloom because it's Pikmin as opposed to Pokemon, which Nintendo only half owns. But still, yeah, it's a it's a big deal. That's
Well, I
okay.
will say I pulled up Scopely's website here, and right, not the website. I pulled to see what products they have, what games, and they have a lot of big names, but I don't have any knowledge of whether they're doing anything good with them. They've got Star Trek Fleet coming in, WWE Champions, Looney Tunes, World of Mayhem. So it sounds like they go after a lot of big names. Someone though will have to tell me if they're treating them properly.
Hmm. Good
You
question.
know what it sort of reminds me of, and I'm going to show my age as an NES kid, but back in the day, they had LJN with the rainbow logo, and they would snatch up all the movie licenses, like Back to the Future, Nightmare on Elm Street, um, Jaws, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, whatever. And a lot of them, not all of them, some of them were good because they were developed by like Rare or other ones, but they would get the licenses and then like subcontract to a developer to churn out a property based on the license. And they became LJN was like uh, became like a garbage kind of icon, even though they weren't the developers, just because they were taking these big names and not treating them with the care that the gamers thought they deserved. So I'm hoping that's not the case here, but just based on what Kirk was saying, I wonder. Um, but I keep going back to that number 3.5. I mean, that's
Yeah.
staggers my mind.
It's a
You know,
lot.
another game they have is Monopoly Go. Is that the one where they had all the big stars in the commercial? Like Chris Pratt, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so they're loaded. I don't know how they. This company's got some money to be able to bring in star power like that for a mobile game commercial, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And apparently Monopoly Go is quite successful or popular, at least. Right? That's what
Yeah,
I
it
read.
says here it generated 1 billion in revenue since it launched in April of 2023. And I don't know what that
Jeez.
timetable is, but yeah, wow.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I hope that means the company's got it. I hope the games are in good hands then with this new new company taking over Niantic. But time will tell. So, anything else from you guys on that topic before we move on to the next item?
On
I'm
No.
good.
mobile gaming, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's not our biggest thing, but that's okay. It's there for people who use it. So, listeners, let us know if you're worried about Pokemon Go or Pikmin Bloom being affected by this sale. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But now onto this news that I alluded to earlier that Kirk, you put this into the list and I had no idea this was happening.
Yes.
And it's sad news for me because Star Wars Hunters is shutting down on October the 1st. What on earth? What's going on with that? That is news to me, honestly. I did not know. I did not see this during the week. So thank you for bringing it to my attention, Kirk. I'm going to have to
Listen,
get back into it.
I
Yeah.
did so with trepidation. Because wasn't it your top game last year on the Switch?
It was. Yes, it was. It definitely was. I haven't played it as much this year. It's been replaced a little bit with Luck Be a Landlord.
Yeah, and I know Luck Be a Landlord. Well, is there room for more than one of those kind of games in your timeline, or is I mean, how do you divide between games that don't have an ending like that? Because I don't really play those.
Yeah, I mean, it does and it doesn't. You have a run that you have a goal, and once you get to that goal, it ends. You can continue with endless mode in Luck Be a Landlord, but I've never made it much further than that because it just gets ridiculously hard. And I'm still climbing my way through those 9 levels that sort of you unlock and that makes it harder. So I'm up to like level 6 or something now. So once I get to level 9, I don't know, maybe I won't play it as much. Star Wars Hunters, I guess, is more like, you know, 5-on-5 fighting battles, and they have a time limit. So it is a bit. It's like a game when I just have like 10 minutes that I just feel like playing something that's not a review title or I'm not. I don't know. I don't want to watch something on TV. These are good games to just jump into for 10, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. So Lucky Landlord has kind of replaced it from that perspective. But once I finished Lucky Landlord, especially now that I know Star Wars Hunters is going down, I am going to have to jump back into that. So it looks like there's a new season coming still. They've got one more season, season 5, I believe. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. I think
correct?
I
Yes.
read that they are going to release some more content up until then, but then October
Mhm.
1st is the final. You log in on the second, you're getting nothing.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Is this just for the Switch version or across the board? do you think? It kind of seems
It
like it's
sounded
just the
like it was
Switch.
all of them.
All of them?
I
Okay. I
thought.
wonder. Yeah, I wonder whether it's just because it's not been as popular as they thought, or it's taking up too much server space, or maybe they always planned because it's a free game, right? And then they rely on people buying, outfits or characters. Maybe people aren't buying as much as they.
It just says it's going offline. They're going to end the service.
Mm,
Um, I think it shows the importance of physical media, and even with
mm,
some of these online games, they have gotten subsequent physical releases, and I think this is just another example that highlights the importance of that, especially as we're transitioning into new hardware, which um, we still don't know how that's going to work, but our competitors, have already talked about focusing more on digital, so that's the danger. You
yeah.
get addicted to these games, they take them away, and then what do you have? So it's not good news. Even though I haven't played this game, there's just nothing good
Mm,
about it.
yeah. I think it sounds like there was just a lot of competition in that online space, and it maybe didn't have enough of an audience, I guess. Yeah, it'd be good if they did make a physical version that didn't rely on online connectivity. You could play it locally or something. I don't know. Yeah, but it is a shame. I'll definitely have to play it as much as I can before it shuts down. Yes, thank you for bringing that to my attention, Kirk, again. But
No, I'm sorry. If they ever shut down Fire Emblem Heroes, you can you can be the one to point that out to me.
yes,
Although I'm ready for that. If if they announce that they're done tomorrow, I'll be like, well, all right, it was fun, and I'm ready to move
yeah,
on. But as long as it's
yes,
there, I'll keep playing.
yeah, yes.
It
Very
sounds
good.
to me like both of you guys need more review games, and that way you won't be distracted by these free
Well,
games.
Fire Emblem Heroes gets about 5 to 10 minutes of my time a day. That's why I won't miss it too much.
Hmm.
I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Very cool in a way, and also very sad. But no, thank you. So if you're a dedicated Star Wars Hunters player, yeah, maximize your time with until October the 1st. I will get back into it and talk about the new season when that comes out and give you an update on what's happening there. And the other piece of news that we have is that there is a new Nintendo store opening in San Francisco, I believe. And what was the date? Was it May
May
something?
15th,
May the 15th.
which of course has led to rumors, right? Like, oh, maybe Switch 2 will be released May 15th.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm. Didn't I say May? That if that happens, I was the one who said May. So
Oh
You
gosh,
did.
I think you might
Yeah,
have.
man.
we'll
I think
see. We'll see.
we even said back then that somehow we've got a mole that not even the staff here knows about.
Yes. So
Gemma, are
that's
you
cool.
really in Australia or are you in San
Yeah.
Francisco? You
San
can tell me.
Francisco. Yeah. No, definitely in Australia. I haven't even been to San Francisco actually. Have you guys been over that way?
I have been there numerous times because a lot of the conventions, well, especially like Macworld Expo was there every year, and I used to go for that for another site I worked for. So
Okay.
familiar with areas, and I think I know the area where yeah, Union Square. That's right near Moscone Center where the Macworld Expo was. It's a nice area of San Francisco,
Cool.
or at least it was the last time I was there about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago now.
Hmm. Yeah. Good spot for a Nintendo shop, do you think? Nintendo store? Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, busy, a lot of good stores. Oh no, I was there for Ubisoft's thing, for the Ubisoft event for Mario versus Rabbids or whatever. Yeah,
Ah. Yeah,
Spark of
okay.
Hope.
So not that long ago.
Yeah, well, not that long ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think more Nintendo stores is a good thing for people to get to more easily. I don't know if there's one. There's only one in New York in the US, is that right? That's the only one in the US currently?
There is that little one I know of that is near Universal in Los Angeles. When you're walking to get to the entrance, there's a
Um,
small
Ah.
new Nintendo store there, but that's
Hmm.
more the size of like a gift shop than
Hmm.
a full two-story store like the one in New York City.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, because there's two in Japan. There's one in Kyoto, one in Tokyo. Two in the US. There will be. I don't know if there's one in Melbourne, Australia. I'm not sure actually. I might need to check into that. So yeah, it's expanding, which is pretty neat. They're awesome stores. If you haven't been to one, talking to listeners, not you guys. You guys have you both been to a Nintendo store
Yes.
previously? Yes.
I
Trev?
have not.
Wow. You need to get to
Not
the one in
yet,
New York.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know. When I was younger, I used to go to New York all the time. In
Hmm.
my 20s, it was like, yeah, let's just go for a weekend or whatever. And now that
Mm.
I'm middle age here, it's like, oh, do I really even want to go to Target? It's like 6 minutes away.
Yes.
I'll just have them deliver.
Yes. Yeah. It's quite an experience. They're very cool stores. I met up with Justin in the New York store and Katie as well a few years ago
Yeah.
from Pure Nintendo. So that was fun. Yeah, and I've been to Kyoto and Tokyo, so now I'll have to go to San Francisco and try that one. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, so whether that relates to a release date, we don't know, but obviously we'll find out soon enough. And the other thing that we want to talk about in terms of Switch 2 is a bit of a rumor. Oh, sorry, we're done with the Nintendo Store. Any other comments on that? Nope.
I just want to
Not for
say I
me.
hope they diversify their selection.
Yes.
The
Yeah, that's
one I
true.
was at had no Pikmin anywhere
Mhm.
in New York City, and very few. They had like a couple Fire Emblem Figma characters, maybe,
Mm,
or that kind of thing. But yeah, it was all Mario style stuff, and I'd like to see them branch out in with American audiences to a uh, broader
yes.
selection of games.
I completely agree. Both of the two that I went to in Japan, were amazing, especially Kyoto. Kyoto is huge because it's newer, I guess, than Tokyo, but they had so much Pikmin stuff. You would have loved it, Kirk. It's, yeah, quite astounding that it's not the same in New York. So hopefully San Francisco can rectify that a little bit. Mm. Definitely need to diversify. They had like an Animal Crossing section, obviously a Pikmin section, plenty of Mario, of course, but just stuff I would not see in Australia or even the US. And that's, where I got those vases from, for example, or
Yeah,
vases. Yeah, stuff you can't get anywhere else. So, which makes it really neat and kind of makes you feel like it's an exclusive thing that you just, you feel special, like, oh, I can only get this here. Like, this is really cool and neat. Yeah. Anyway. But yes, we were talking about release dates and things just before, but now we're seeing rumors that nearly 400,000 Switch 2 devices, I guess, have been shipped to the US in January. If this is true, does this indicate an early release date? What do you guys think?
yeah. Well, the reason why I put this in here when I saw it, of course, again, no idea if this is true. It's a rumor
Mhm.
that's been around. What was it, like 385,000? I think shipments of the Switch 2 in January, to the U.S. Which, if that is true, then I would assume, yeah, it's got to indicate an early release because obviously that means the system was ready to go back then, and they were holding it for other reasons. So I can't imagine they'd want to, push that back.
Mhm.
But I also, if that is true, that's good in that they're stocking up for the initial run and have since January have been putting out all kinds of additional devices that will be ready to ship again if they haven't already, and we just haven't caught that rumor. Um, so yeah, I'm happy to see if this is true that the supply chain I think is going to be full and ready to go.
Yeah, that is definitely a good thing. Yes, especially if there's that big lineup of games that we alluded to earlier in the show. If there's heaps of games, that means heaps of people are going to want to buy it up front. We know people have been clamoring for the Switch 2 for a long time. Hopefully that, yeah, it does indicate a strong initial sales from Nintendo's perspective. They obviously want to sell as many as possible. And we've talked about this before, not wanting them to have, bare shelves where it's hard to get a Switch 2. We don't want that situation. So yeah, that sounds pretty positive, hopefully. Trev, did you have any comments on that one?
Um, I it doesn't sway me much on an early release.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's two reasons why. One, I don't know, how much the stock has been traditional for console
Mm.
launches. I do know there's been launches where Nintendo has been short of stock, like with the Wii or even the Switch. Think back to when the Switch first came out. there was a stretch of time you had a hard time finding certain models. So I think they want to ensure they have a good stock. I don't necessarily think it has any indication about an early release, assuming the rumor
Mm,
is true. I think my issue with early releases, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but every time people talk about them, they rarely, if ever, cite reasons why, except that they just believe they want it. And that's wanting
yeah.
something is not going to will it into existence. Otherwise, I would have been playing Star Tropic sequels for the past 25 years. There's got to be a reason. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the issue with rumors, and supposed insiders and all these things. So it's interesting info though, and as far as having a good stock for the launch and beyond, into the later part of the year, the holiday shopping season, I think Nintendo will be prepared for that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's a very good point, honestly. I think everyone's just getting very excited and really they are trying to will it into existence sooner rather than later. So, yeah.
I've been doing that with the Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn remasters for 5 or 6 years
Yes.
now, and I've found that my manifestation powers are lacking.
You just got to
Well,
believe more.
That's
yeah,
Close your
true.
eyes
I
and
don't
believe.
believe enough. Yeah, it's my own fault.
yeah,
It's my own
it'll
fault.
happen. It's got to happen eventually, right? Surely. Don't give up. Don't give up hope.
Well, I did manifest getting it on the GameCube, so now I don't even need it because I got the GameCube and completed
There
it.
you
True.
go.
True.
But,
And
I took.
I did find my GameCube at my mum's house the other
Oh,
day.
excellent.
After, yeah. I haven't connected it and I didn't find any games with it. Just the actual
So it's just a
GameCube.
cube, no game.
Pretty
Just
much. Yeah. In a box. It's still in its original box.
nice.
Yeah. So I'll have to
Man.
set that up and get that
What
going.
color do you have?
Like the purpley one?
Okay. Yeah.
What was the other color? Was it like a lighter color?
I have a black one, but I remember the silver one looked pretty cool.
Yes, I had a
Mm,
silver one.
right. And what did you have, Trev? Did you have the black one?
I had the black one, yeah, the boring black one.
Oh, so between the three of us, we had all three colors
What
I
was
then.
there
think
an
there were
orange
more.
one?
Wasn't there like
I
a
thought there was
orange
orange.
spice?
Yeah,
Oh. Oh, I don't know if that was available here. I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
never saw one, but I've seen pictures.
Well, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's true. It might have been for different regions.
Maybe.
Because
Maybe.
remember,
Well,
like with the 3DS, Japan got a ton of those like face plates for the new model, and I
mhm.
never remember seeing hardly any of them around here. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very cool. So yes, I'll get that connected one day and try it. Well, let's move on to the games we're playing because we have a nice healthy list of those as well. Just one for me, so I'll go first. And I'm playing a game called The Hungry Lamb, and the subtitle is Traveling in the Late Ming Dynasty. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. I had not. I'm reviewing this one as well. It's a visual novel, basically, in every sense of the word. It's really, which is good because it's a proper visual novel. You know, it's words on a screen. Um, you can use the if you're playing in handheld, you can touch the screen to make the words move faster or whatever. You can put it on auto mode. I love visual novels that have all these little features so that you can just sit back and watch it if you wanted to, almost like subtitles on a movie. The visuals are static. They don't. It's not video. It's just static images, but they're really nice. They're very well drawn, well animated, and it's set in the 1600s of China. And it's an interesting story. It's you're sort of following the adventures of I guess a man or some sort of I don't know how old he is, maybe a boy, but he's probably late teens, I'd say, or early 20s. And he and his partner, as in adventuring partner, not couple partner, they do these little missions. They're a bit of a scoundrel type of people who take on these missions for sort of not so great people. And it's rated T for teen. There's a bit of back and forth there. It's not like it's gory, but there's definitely some subtext there that's not going to be for a younger audience. But what your current mission is to transport some young people to a lord up in the mountains somewhere. Basically, human trafficking is what I'm trying to get at. There's no nice way to say that. And obviously, something happens along the way. There's a mystery. And I don't want to give anything away. I haven't finished it yet. I'm sort of a few chapters in, But it's very engaging right from the get-go. These characters are very engaging. The story is really engaging. And there's some alternate pathways. So it's a bit like a choose your own adventure. At certain points in the game, you'll get a choice between two options, and then the story continues. What I really like as another kind of quality of life thing when it comes to visual novels is there's something they call a flow chart in this game. And you can see the flow chart, which shows you more or less the path you've taken. And you can go back to any point in that flow chart and sort of do a different path if you like. So there's multiple endings.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That's what
really,
my
really
visual novel review needed.
yes,
So
right.
I'm glad yours has that because that's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
asset.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I've already died once. Someone killed me, and, I went back and you can fast forward, you can skip some text if you've been there before to make it really easy to get back to where you were. So yeah, it's got all those cool features that I just love in a visual novel that makes it way more accessible. You don't have to just drag yourself through from the very beginning over and over again, or even from a chapter beginning. Um, yeah, so I'm really into it. I'm looking. I love reading anyway. I think I've mentioned before. I love a good book. This is obviously, visual novel, so it's on screen, but I still love a good story. So I'm going to get through that one and review that one. It is 10% off currently. It just came out last week. I think it was the whatever Thursday was, the 13th, I think it came out. And it's currently on sale until the 20th. So if it does sound up your alley, jump on board and grab that one for a small discount this week. Did you guys have any questions about that one for me?
I feel like we're in a visual novel renaissance here. Like I reviewed one. I
Agreed.
think Kirk reviewed two recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and one I'm going to talk about in a bit too.
Oh,
Oh,
excellent. Yeah, I do feel like we've been sport for choice there recently, which is great because I think it's a good genre if done well. So, Kirk, what are you playing at the moment?
Well, the one I just finished, and the review went up late last week, as you're listening to this at Pure Nintendo, is a game called Kamikaze Lass Planes. Lasses and lasses, lads and lasses. It's a visual novel with a lot of fan service, by which I mean the lasses in the game actually become airplanes. We have these girls and they become airplanes and they need a pilot, but they have to be compatible with the pilot. So there's a bit of a romance there between the pilot and the plane, I guess.
Oh,
It sounds bizarre, and it is. Um, but it's actually pretty well done. The story is pretty good because we've got two planes. Like I don't know a lot about the visual novel genre. I played five or six of them. Um, so I know of course there are hundreds. But there are only two characters. Like on screen, you will only see the two last planes. And it sounds weird saying that. I don't know why.
it does.
Um, the first one we meet is called Albatross. Get it? The second one is Hannah
ah,
Brandenburg. So I don't know why they go for the pun with the first name Albatross and the second character is named Hannah Brandenburg. Am
Yeah,
I missing something? Is there like a literary reference that I don't get? I don't know.
don't know.
Um, Completely different. But so the first one you meet, she's a little bit shy. She's doesn't quite have confidence, but she's like the most powerful plane. She just needed the great pilot. Hey, you're the great pilot. You hit it off. Wonderful. And then you meet the other one who's this kind of like a much more brash, very confident. I'm going to do things my own way kind of person. So there's a bit of a romantic triangle there that's really kind of the focus, but at the same time, you've got this really dark war story going on in the background. And we've got family histories that are really dark. So you think it's going to be this goofy kind of edgy style story, but the war story is actually really serious, and the tonal shifts are very well handled. So it ends up working better than I thought. But of course, we're talking about airplanes. It's not just a visual novel. There are a lot of shoot 'em up levels that you do. When you're piloting the plane, you're actually out there taking on this enemy that is never really defined. I mean, like there's not a single bad guy. It's more like there's just a war and you're fighting in it, and this is your role. And what are you going to do? So you have to make decisions. Like one of the big ones early on is the veil that's protecting this kingdom. is breached and the enemy comes in on the northern area, and that's where Albatross is from. So she wants to go to the north to warn her family, but her orders are her and your orders. The pilot, the character you play, is named Walter. Her and Walter, their orders are to go south. So she really wants to not follow the orders. She wants to fly north and warn. And you have to decide: do I go with her or
Mm.
do I listen to what the orders are? There are, I believe, 8 different endings that you could play through too. There's an arcade mode, so if you just want to do the battles, you can. For difficulty levels, you could set it up so it's basically God mode the whole time. So if you're just in it for the visual novel and you're not good at shmups, then you don't really. I mean, you play them, but you don't have to worry about dying, so you can get through them very quickly.
That's a great feature.
Yes. So they
Mm.
very much cater to both. And I played both of them on normal. Well, I mean, I guess the visual novel doesn't have normal. But got through it. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the characters. And the shoot 'em up levels were very well done. It's not really hardcore like a lot of them are, but the action was fun. They were challenging at the level that I played. I never lost one, but you do get ranked. You could get like a bronze, silver, or a gold medal. I think I got gold the first time and then never got it again. So even on normal, it's giving you a bit of a challenge. But yeah, the whole thing came together quite well, and I was pleased and surprised.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I love that. Thank you, Kirk.
Yep.
Did you want to continue with your other game?
Yeah, I will quickly go into this because my review's not up yet. I am playing Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land. This comes out Friday, which I think is the 21st, March 21st.
Mhm.
Um, I'm about 30 hours into it, so I have a ways to go. Hopefully, I'll be able to get the review up this week. And I will say that I'm enjoying the game. It's got a lot of great things about it. And unlike the previous Atelier games, this one is much more of an open world kind of game. You get this giant map at the beginning and a lot of icons on things where you could go to and kind of find out what they are. Exploration is huge in this. There are some issues, which I will either go into next week or just leave for the review. And I will say that I think I'm starting to feel sorry for lifelong fans of the Atelier series because I didn't get into this until Atelier Ryza, which was the 3 games before this. And that one shifted more towards battles and less towards the alchemy of like creating things and acquiring various herbs and plants and other things to be able to like build all of your items. This one is really shifting more towards battles and explorations. It still has that, it's still a key component. But I imagine the people who started on this series when that's kind of all it was are just going to be completely lost. Or I shouldn't say
Mm.
lost. It's not that hard to figure out. But it's a big shift from what the game started as. So you've heard me complain quite a bit about how Fire Emblem has shifted from its core game to what it kind of is now to broaden the audience.
Mm.
And I imagine that Atelier fans are going to go through that too. That doesn't mean they shouldn't try it, but man, this one's quite a bit different from what you
Wow.
played before.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you think that's, I mean, how do we feel about that generally? Because, like, I know how you feel about Fire Emblem, for example. Is there an example, and maybe Trev has one, where games evolve in a positive way? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you're into a game series, you like the core element of it. If they change it too much, that's gonna, the original fans get a bit lost unless they adapt or whatever. But yeah, I'm thinking about Mario, for example. I don't know, the core, like that's if you look at Mario Brothers 1 to Mario Brothers Wonder, they're very different. Do you think that's a risk that people developers have to take? What do you think? Like, do you think games should change? I guess is maybe my question.
Yeah, real quickly, I'm not sure. I don't know because you can't keep releasing the same game for 20
Mm,
years, 30 years, 40 years, and I get that. But I believe that Atelier Ryza might have been the largest selling games in the series. I could be wrong on
mm,
that, but I think that new focus on the battles and the more JRPG approach to it brought in a bigger audience. So they're like, all right, we're growing now. We can afford to do the things we didn't want to do or we couldn't do before. So that
Mm.
could be part of it. It could be we've got this larger audience. Let's keep them and keep expanding it more towards what they think that audience wants. And they may be right. This it's being pretty well reviewed, or so far, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's hard to say. I
Yeah.
want them to be able to expand and grow, but I also don't want developers to feel like they've got to lose the heart of the original series as they do so.
Yeah, I guess if you go back to that Fire Emblem example, it's like Three Houses was the extreme end of adding a lot to Fire Emblem, and then they kind of went back and pared it back a bit, where it was a bit more of an optional thing, with the whole
Yeah,
socialization aspect. Yeah, so maybe it's a balancing act as well. I don't know. Hmm. Interesting. Did you have an opinion on that, Trev?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about Fire Emblem, but like to your point about Mario, even though we're fans of it, you think back to the new series.
Mm,
And after four entries, there was a bit of a backlash to that because they were
mm,
kind of cookie cutter. They were still fun, they were still polished, but they did feel samey. And obviously, they still sold like hotcakes. But in terms of critical reception, people were hoping for that change. And then you compare that to something like Mario Wonder or even like Mario Maker, where the levels
mm,
were just bursting with creativity. I feel like a lot of long running series or franchises maybe get into that where there is a period where they play it kind of safe and then they have to mix it up. But then of course there's the the danger you go too far and then people miss the classic. So it's always a balancing act. And I feel like that
mm.
probably changes throughout the years and different, system generations and just changing moods and
Yeah,
your audience, etc.
yeah, yeah. Good point. Thank you. Did you have any more to say, Kirk, about Atelier Lumia? Or
there's more I could say, but I'll save it. I'll save it, like I said, for either next week or the review.
all right, thank you. Trev, what have you been playing this week?
Okay. I do have a couple, but I think for the sake of time, I'm just going to limit myself to one. And if you caught last week's show, it might sound familiar, but of course, Kirk wasn't on last week. And
Mhm.
I know he's an RPG fan, so I want to give a shout out to Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, especially since I don't think I'm going to be able to review it. So the podcast is the way I can sort of, uh, you know, build a pipe for it if you're not already playing it. Um, One of the key things, obviously, to this game, and I mentioned that before, and it's known as the 108 allies that you can get, and how most of them are actually playable characters with a few exceptions. You can put them in your party, you can outfit them, they have different move sets available. So a lot of the depth of the game comes down to how willing you are to really invest in it. Like I beat the game in about, I don't know, maybe 17 hours. Beat the first game anyway. Having already, beaten it a couple times prior. But like I looked at my roster and I'm like, oh, I don't have all the allies. So I loaded up an earlier save file and I'm trying to get all 108. I think I'm up to 97 and I know of at
Oh,
least two more where they are. But that still leaves nine I haven't even found. And of course, there's
mhm,
challenges to recruit them. Some of them will just join your army, but others, you have to have the right character in your party when you're talking to them because they'll help sway them, or you have to do like little fetch quest or whatever. Um, so there's a lot to the game, and as you get these allies, your home base really builds up. Like the home base initially is a dungeon, and you beat that, and it's like this hollow shell. And as you get more and more allies, it starts to get built up. There's different floors and wings, and you can even get an elevator. You get your own shops. You get your own sauna for just to chill and relax. You can decorate it, and
mhm,
it's just so much fun just running through and talking to each of the characters because they all have distinct personalities, which adds a lot to the charm. And again, they're not just eye candy. you can swap out your party and put in whoever you want, mix and match. If you have certain types of characters, you can have moves that unite and deal extra damage. And conversely, if I have a party that's like, at level 50, and then I'm like, I want to play with this character who I recruited ages ago and never played with, and they're at level 4, throw them in the back of the line so they're not going to get hit, and one or two fights, and they're going to jump up by dozens of levels. So it's not actually difficult to level them up. It is pricey if you want to outfit them with good armor, but even then, there's ways you can manipulate that. You have a money making game in your base, once you recruit the right allies. So there's a lot to this game, and this is just the first game. I haven't even played the second one yet. So
Is the
um,
money-making game a slot machine like Luck Be a Landlord? Is that how you
no, it's rolling dice. Um, I guess the closest thing I could think of is sort of like craps, but
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
even sure. And one of the biggest challenges is make sure you roll into the bowl. If a dice doesn't hit the bowl, you lose automatically, um, which is surprisingly easy to do. It's just a cursor. You just got to time it. It is a random element, but you can, you know, triple, quadruple your money in an instant, or you can lose it all. So I haven't been ashamed to, especially once I get to the end of the game, to create a save, and if the roll doesn't go my way, load back up and try again. Because I've already
Yes.
I've already experienced the bulk of the game. Now I'm just looking to outfit some of these characters and to find the last of the 108. Because I think there's a special ending if you get them all. Um,
Cool.
yeah, I don't want to spoil any. I have to leave it at that.
You don't know how many characters are in the second game then? Does that have an sort of a cast of hundreds as well, or not really?
I would. I think it's the same. I never beat the second game.
Hmm.
It does have some returning faces, though. I think it's a very similar structure.
Mm.
Um, but it's been well over 20 years since I played it, and I never beat that one. And I haven't really stuck with the series since. But that's a key ally. I think it's based on like a some kind of Chinese story or proverb, if memory
Right.
serves. So
Mm,
um,
okay.
I don't actually know. But at least with the base ending, I can just say this. And if you don't want to hear it, you pause the podcast here and jump ahead a minute. But each of your allies, after you beat the game, it sort of gives you like a little epilogue of what they're doing.
Wow. Each
All
of
108.
All
yeah.
108.
It's going to
Wow.
take 3 hours.
So it's
I'm
quick,
falling asleep.
It's like a quick sentence or two, but it's very character driven. And even during in between missions, like there's cutscenes with different characters talking, and you really get to know them. And that's what drives you through the game. It's not so much the tropes of a one army of rebels versus an army of bad guys. It's really these characters. Why are they fighting? What's their motivation? What's in it for them? Some characters are really invested. Some characters are in it, just kind of on a lark or to make money or, you know, um, but you get to know them. And the more you're willing to play around and search and explore, you're going to get even more out of the game.
Mm. You're
Do you
selling it.
find when you're playing it with that many characters, and we talked a bit outside the podcast on this because I played that Aeuden Chronicle and Tier Christ. I still don't know if I said that right. Back on the DS, the Suikoden game for the DS. Like I'm used to games where you've got maybe 8 characters, maybe sometimes up to 12, and it's easy to shuffle them around. How do you decide out of 108 people who to put in your
Yes.
party and fight with?
It is a challenge, and some of it's just trial and error because certain characters are especially strong. Basically, instead of a magic setup, they have what they call runes, and different characters have certain moves that you can really exploit. So those are the ones I tend to like to keep in front and outfit with high defensive, armor. But then, like in the back row, because you have 3 in your front row, 3 in the back, you need to make
Hmm.
sure you have characters in the formation that are like archers or are able to attack the back row. Because at certain points in the games, for story purposes, characters are introduced into your party, and
Yeah.
you have to fit them in no matter what. So there was one point in the game I could not turn this character down. It gives you the option to, but it just changes the dialogue, and then they come in anyway. And I didn't have room for him in my party because he was so low level. I couldn't put him in the front, but he had no means to attack from the back. So he basically just took up an inventory space, and I had to beat the boss with 5 characters, which was it was a challenge. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, trial and error and experience, and you'll get your favorites. You'll have your go to party that you'll try to use when you can, and depending on where the plot is, at certain points, characters will be introduced or reintroduced. Characters will die, and then you won't be able to use them. So,
Oh,
um,
Like they
yeah,
die as part of the story, or they just died in a battle and you moved on without them.
um, it it could be a few reasons. Some characters do die for story. I think you can actually lose key characters in battle, although I didn't experience it on this playthrough. Some characters, as the leader of the rebellion army, you can kill. You defeat an enemy general. You have the option to try to rehabilitate and recruit them into your army, or you can take off their head. It's it's really up to you, and characters will react different ways depending on what you choose. So,
wow.
Well, yeah, you're
yeah.
making it sound good. I'll give
You
it to you.
are. You are. So if, for example, that one that you can choose to kill, is he one of the 108 characters? And if you kill him, do you not then get the special ending?
I don't know if you would. He is. They are among the 108. There's a
Oh,
tablet within your home base. Once you get the, I think you have to get a certain character to get access to it, but you can see which of the 108 you have. Like there'll be blank spots, and then there'll be spots with names. And if a character is dead, their name will be grayed out, but it will still be there. And in the
okay.
little epilogue, it'll say like so and so was died at such and such a place, or died in this battle, or was
Mm,
executed, whatever. So
interesting. Yeah, you're definitely making it sound fun. So thank you.
it is. If Kirk buys this game, I will buy Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Well, I'll
Oh,
tell you what.
challenge.
If I buy this game instead of Xenoblade Chronicles, I want you to buy Unicorn Overlord,
Oh,
Oh,
because there are elements of what you just described that are very much come into play in Unicorn Overlord. So
mm.
I think that is a more logical connection.
I was thinking that
okay.
too, just from your description of that, Kirk. Even though I played the demo, but you went, obviously it was your one of your games of the year from last year, and it has a large character roster as well, doesn't it? Unicorn Overload.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what Trevor was saying there, where there are characters who you fight, and then you have the option of executing them or trying to recruit them.
Mm.
Um, and what you decide sometimes works out in your favor. It can also upset people in your current party. So you need to make those decisions as you progress and decide how you're going to handle some of those situations.
Yes. Okay. Well, there you go. Challenge. The challenge has been thrown down. Unicorn Overload for Trev. Suikoden 1 and 2 for Kirk. Let's revisit that one in the future and see how we go. But thank you so much, Trev, for giving that in-depth analysis of the game. It sounds really good. If listeners are playing it and enjoying it as much as Trev, let us know because yeah, I definitely am interested. I'll see if I can make time for it in my gaming roster as well. If I can kick off Luck Be a Landlord and replace it with.
Hmm.
Well, you won't have Star Wars Hunters getting in the way, so
Yes.
you got
Yes.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, too
Exactly.
soon,
Thank
Kirk. Too soon.
you.
There's no shortage of Star Wars entertainment out there to hop onto,
That is
latch
so
on.
true. That is so
Yeah.
true. Yes, that is so true. Well, thank you, both of you, Trevor and Kirk, for joining me this week. I think, unless you guys had something else to add, we are about at the end of the show there. Any final thoughts before we close things off for the week?
No, except I'm excited to be able to talk about my first few hours on Xenoblade Chronicles X for the next podcast.
Oh, yes, that comes out. What was the date for that one? 20,
20th. It's the
20th.
Thursday, the day before we record, and I have taken that day off from work. Um,
Excellent.
so
Excellent.
I'll be able to put in some time before we record.
Brilliant. Looking forward to hearing that.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, listeners, for joining us this week. Did I miss the word Austin? Thank you, listeners, for joining us this week. If you'd like to read more about our reviews and other news, please head on over to purenintendo.com. You can also catch us on social media at Blue Sky. Please, follow us there. That's where we post all our news and updates and reviews, etc. And if you would like to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/purenintendo, and you will also get yourselves a copy of our physical magazine. So that is the bonus there, and we send that out to you for the next issue, which will be Switch 2 related. So look forward to that one. Thank you again, and until next week, game on, everybody. Bye.
See ya.